Good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Rwanda Television. You're watching Rwanda Television News in English. We begin with the headlines. The Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement notes that progress has been made in the process of unity and reconciliation. However, people are urged to improve the rate of this unity and reconciliation, hence to achieve the government's goal. There are mental patients that have been in Ndera Neuropsychiatric Hospital for 40 years with no trace of their families, as there include foreigners. My name is Olive Nete. It's a pleasure to have your company tonight. Now to the news in details. The Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement notes that progress has been made in the process of unity and reconciliation. However, people are urged to improve this rate of unity and reconciliation, hence to achieve the country's goal. Adam Squizera with the details.
Mukashima Priscilla, one of the survivors of the genocide against Tutsi, which took lives of more than 57 of her family members. For her, the program of unity and reconciliation felt like something that was impossible or just a myth.
It
wasn't easy at all, since we all didn't understand anything about reconciliation. For me particularly, I wasn't even ready to get close to those who killed my family.
In the Mayanja sector of Jesse district, in the village named Umudugudu Mwenubudahiranwa, which is the village of unity and resilience of Rwimikoni 2 in Bio. It's a village where some of the genocide perpetrators and survivors live. Hamturi Bambalois, who was imprisoned for his crimes in the genocide against Tutsi in 1994, also lives in this village. After getting released from the prison, he had to reintegrate in the society as other Rwandans. We were worried on the first day, and on the second day we met. That's why we asked them for forgiveness, and they approved it without any force from administration. The residents of this village are some of those who emphasize the role of unity and reconciliation in the Rwandan society. Like when you look at the activities that brings us together, it really shows you that we achieved this unity and reconciliation. Take an example of various cooperatives we formed, and the fact that these people can even help me in solving different problems without thinking that I killed his or her people. In the celebration of 78th anniversary of the United Nations, the UN resident coordinator, Ozonia Ojielo, affirmed that there is now something to celebrate in the journey of unity and reconciliation in Rwanda.
So the journey of national unity is first equity, it's fairness, it's inclusion, it's participation in your own national affairs. So there are many elements that reflect national unity. And then you have the idea of people together in a place like Mbio village. But you know the most fundamental element of national unity? It's changing the material conditions of people.
The Minister of National Unity and Civic Engagement, Dr. Wisman Jean-Damascene, demonstrates this village of Rwimikoni 2 as a stand-firm symbol of the unity of Rwandans that has been achieved. It is really a good example that shows how Rwanda developed itself. Then some people think on how genocide was bad, but never thinks on the social livelihood of people, plus the way they have achieved the reconciliation process. Now this village have been a good example of that, since there are various activities that take place in this village which regards to unity and reconciliation. The Rwanda Reconciliation Barometer of 2020 showed that the rate of reconciliation among Rwandans has reached at 94.7% from 92.5% in 2015, while in 2010 the rate was at 82.3%. Adam Squizera, RTV News.
Thank you, Adams, for the details. Now, people who work night shifts in Kigali City say it is important to take into account hours to rest, for it is beneficial to their health, but also to the growth of their businesses. We have details on the story. During night hours in Kigali City, various business people carry out activities to get a living. This is Ngawunziza Innocent, a 51-year-old man who is commonly known in making delicious snacks in Kimisagara sector. He's been doing this for the past 23 years.
I started doing this in 2000, and this greatly benefited me because it assisted me in paying school fees to my children.
Every place in Kigali city is known for its speciality. For example, in Nyamirambo in the Biryogo Free Zone, it is a social hub for enjoyment with non-alcoholic drinks and food.
Nobody bothers the other, and also we feel safe and happy.
During the weekends, people go out and socialize. In bars in Kigali city, many of those who attend are young people. There are also DJs that help people to enjoy their time. In some bars in Kigali city, it is still hard to close early and make clients leave, unlike what they were used to.
It is still hard. Sometimes clients refuse to leave on time and it causes trouble. And at some point, security personnel come to assist. Yes, it is still hard.
Some prefer to work during night shifts according to the business they conduct. Women who work in markets explain how they benefit from working in late nights. Most of the times, we get clients during night hours, and because people are used to this, some people even come from Nyamirambo to get fruits from our market because they know we are open in these hours. The fact that there are new regulations that prohibit some businesses, including commercial entertainment and businesses that serve alcoholic beverages, to operate nighttime is seen as a hindrance to some other activities. However, some residents are also content of the new guidelines since it is beneficial in so many ways.
Most of the young people, even those with my age, you'd find them late at night, drunk, and you'd see them in the morning, just there, being useless, and it was a very big issue.
Kigali city, the capital of Rwanda, is known to be a clean city. It is also a safe city because people can go around from place to place day and night. Now to health matters. There are mental patients that have been in the Ndera Neuropsychiatric Hospital for 40 years with no trace of their families, as there include foreigners. The administration shares its concerns as 90 patients in need of support, only 40 are taken care of as their condition are critical. Prince Manzi with the details.
This is a 65-year-old patient who has been in Ndera Neuropsychiatric Hospital since 1986. This patient's condition is ameliorating, as in what she remembers include that a relative came for a visit.
I was brought in by my uncles. My husband has just died. I was happy for the hospitality of the Brothers of Charity. They took care of us. We have a nice place we live in. We eat well.
This mental patient is among 40 patients that are specifically treated as their families are unknown, due to most of them are brought in the hospital by the security organs and local administrators.
In the 40 patients include 6 foreigners. The youngest is 20 and the oldest is 90 plus years. It varies depending on the conditions of their sickness, but when they are taken care of and supported, they slowly gain consciousness.
As it is hard to trace families of these patients, it is even harder to trace for families of foreigners, as there is also one who came in 1979.
We have those from Malawi, Uganda, Burundi, and also Tanzanians. You can understand Kiswahili, but for others it is hard. We collaborate with the immigration office, but still to locate their families is very hard.
On the other hand, the Ndera Neuropsychiatric Hospital ensures the expansion of patients' utilities, as their families are not yet located, even though some families are not able to take care of them due to the forms of their conditions. There is also a plan of expanding the facility. The discussions have been made with the ministry in charge, and in the near future, there's a way of taking care of these patients for them to integrate and live normally. Statistics of the Ministry of Health demonstrate that 1 out of 5 people be having a mental problem, and 95% of them lack treatment. In 2022-2023, the Ndera Neuropsychiatric Hospital received 95,000 patients and 5,645 patients were hospitalized. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Prince, for the details. Now, in other matters in Huye district, youth in universities say that none can use the unemployment and lack of financial possessions as a reason to engage in anti-patriotic acts. Prince Manzi continues.
These were said in the discussions organized by the Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement and its partners in the Unity of Rwandans and Resilience Month. One of the issues discussed include the youth bribed for taking part in anti-patriotic acts. Some of these youth say that with opportunities allocated to them by the government, they cannot accept to fall in such trap. The skills we are given should prompt us to create jobs, instead of someone to make us fall into these malpractices just because of money. Another thing I understand is that as a Rwandan, I am supposed to contribute in its development. So now the essential is not money, the essential is the safety of my country. It does not mean that because you have a lot of money at the moment, you will not get it in the future, because the goals and the vision of the country are better. Reverend Eugene Rutagarama of the Pentecostal Church, they organized these discussions together with the Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement, points out that the youth are assigned to use technology in fighting against misdeeds, against the unity and reconciliation of Rwandans. This is what we are telling them. You are studying, try to compare what my parents are telling me and the reality. Is it true or the opposite? What is being said on social media, is it similar with what I'm seeing back home? We also remind them that they are our strength. The Vice Mayor of Huye District in charge of economic development, Andre Kamana, urges the youth to be careful when replying to non-patriots on social media. They should not be backed by peer pressure. They are to understand effects that rise in such acts. In simple, we are urging them to be careful, have a good character, for the tragedy that took place here to never again. Apart from such discussions, the Pentecostal Church in Rwanda also organized teachings for survivors and perpetrators of the genocide against the Tutsi through the Imbabazi celebration.
Thank you, Prince. Now, some of the livestock farmers in Nyagatare district are concerned with the ineffective artificial insemination of their cows that affect their produce. The Rwanda Agriculture Board reveals that there is an ongoing research that will help in solving this issue. Prince Manzi again.
These farmers say that after being requested to increase their produce, so started the artificial insemination program. But the expectations were different as the insemination is unsuccessful, and yet the practitioners are paid, and this leads to loss. We fall into losses. I did this for my 3 cows. We fall into loss, and you can't find the practitioners so that they can redo this artificial insemination. When you artificially inseminate your cow, it takes at least 3 months to determine if it is unsuccessful, and the farmer does it again, and vice versa till a year, and it is definitely a loss. These livestock farmers request for action to solve this issue. The Directorate of the Rwanda Agriculture Board points out that they are aware of this issue and there's an ongoing research to solve it, as explained by John Kayumba, heading RAB stations of Nyagatare and Gatsibo districts. Of course, there is the case of unsuccessfulness of the artificial insemination, and there are various contributors to this. One is that they can inseminate the cow in an inappropriate time. Other challenge are the diseases that affect cows, but in ongoing research, we have a few number of cows, like 10, where they are given to one veterinary doctor and follow them up. And they want to see if one veterinary doctor, if he follows up on a few number of cows that he artificially inseminated, and if it is successful, we may find that it can be the negligence of veterinary doctors, and if not, we continue the research. A cow is artificially inseminated at 5,000 Rwandan francs and leads to losses to some of the farmers, as one can artificially inseminate 30 cows and only one is successful. Farmers request for a solution for the livestock farming to be performed professionally and cows be productive.
Thank you, Prince Manzi, for the details. As you all know, every Saturday we have a health segment, and today's health segment will delve into the world of autism spectrum disorder, a complex and diverse neurodevelopmental condition that affects millions of individuals worldwide. Dr. Kalimba Edgar, a senior pediatrician at King Faisal Hospital, shares with us realities about this disorder.
Autism spectrum disorder is a neurological and developmental disorder that affects brain function. It affects the way a child's brain processes and perceives things. And the base of this dysfunction is really a dysregulation of what we call neurotransmitters, or how the brain functions. We don't understand exactly the causes of autism, but there is hypothesis. There's a different hypothesis in the sense that we know that environmental, biological, and genetic factors can all play a role, either individually or in combination, to be at the base of this disability. But we don't know exactly the reason or the cause of autism. We do know, however, that certain things, certain factors can increase the risk to have autism. For example, within the family, if there's already an autistic spectrum disorder person or child, then the risk is a bit higher to have another child with autism. The second thing is that when parents are a little bit older, reproductive age, and older parents, father and mother or mother, there's a risk not just for autism but for other congenital syndromes and abnormalities as well. Then the other element is that certain conditions, certain syndromes also increase the risk. So, for example, a child with Down syndrome has a higher risk to have autistic features, or other syndromes, for example, what we call Fragile X syndrome. So these have all been shown to increase the risk for autism.
So going into signs and symptoms, how can parents know that their children have autism? What are the signs and symptoms of a child with autism?
So the challenge with autism is that there is no physical or visible disability. This child will look normal. So it's all within the function and the behavior of a child. And that's why most of the time these kids are picked up during their toddler years, where the difference with other kids becomes very visible, very apparent. So the first important sign is social dysfunction. So these are kids who tend to live in their own world, so to speak. They have minimal or no interaction with other kids, even the family members. They have minimal or no eye contact. They don't show emotion. And that is the part of the non-verbal communication. And then the verbal communication is also a big issue for them, because most of these kids either have absent speech or have unintelligible speech or very delayed speech. And most of the time, even when a child had already developed a certain level of speech or vocabulary, and then they lose it, what we call speech regression, that's also a red flag. So in terms of social communication and interaction, it's a huge dysfunction there that these kids have. Then the other element is behavior dysfunction. Yeah, so they tend to be, first of all, they don't play with other kids. They tend to play alone. They have repetitive manners or repetitive behaviors. They might stick to one toy and do the same thing over and over and over again. So it's basically on how they interact and how they perceive and how they show emotion or how they don't show emotion. So these are some of the signs that will alert you that something is wrong. There are other things, there are other comorbidities, that happen very frequently with autistic spectrum disorder. For example, what we call attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. You can have ADHD without autism, but when you have autism, ADHD is much more common. And that's where you find parents are really overwhelmed by a child who is extremely disruptive, who doesn't listen, who does their own thing, and who can also be aggressive. Sometimes we see aggressive behavior in some of these kids. But again, it's a spectrum. So one child is very different from another child, even if they might both have autism.
So when you were explaining, I thought of something. Is there any chance to detect autism when a mother is pregnant, or it is only noticed after the child is born?
And unfortunately, like I mentioned, because there's no physical abnormality, when you're pregnant, we do a prenatal ultrasound and we can do some blood tests. But autism as a spectrum, as a syndrome, as a disease, does not have a specific test. So you won't do a blood test and say, voila, there is autism, or you won't do imaging and see something, because these kids have normal physical development. So it's practically impossible to detect autism during pregnancy. You can suspect, maybe based on some genetic tests that are currently within the research sphere, but it's generally detected based on developmental delay, social dysfunction, absence of speech delay, and behavior dysfunction that really is picked up mostly within the second year of life.
And the story brings us to the end of tonight's edition. On behalf of the entire news production team and the technical team that helped us to prepare this for you, thanks for being with us. My name is Olive Nete. Enjoy your weekend.